also for validation. So many authors still want a publisher, even if they have been successful as an indie, they want a publisher because there is still status, there is still acceptance. Like you're brilliant in that you're inviting me on your show, and I know you've talked to traditionally published authors. You've had Donald Mars on. I mean, he's got a few things to say about indies, that's for sure. So it's still an environment where, even though the so-called stigma of self-publishing has lessened, it's still there in many places. So what I would say to people is, you have to be very clear what you want to achieve with your book and also with your writing life. For me, it was always about being independent, financially independent, and leaving my job. So I knew that the best way to do that was to be an independent and run my own business. I might have made a different choice if I had just loved my job and just wanted penguin on the spine of my book. Right.
Good for bragging, but there are definitely disadvantages, including some of the rights struggles that I've been going through the past few years because of those contracts from way back when.
Yes, you're probably trying to get them back, are you?
Yeah.
At the moment?
Or at least some of those books were published before electronic books even existed, so they weren't mentioned in the contracts, and it was still a struggle to get those rights. And audiobook, don't even get me started. I want to talk about you.
Well, I do want to mention there that the most famous independent author is J.K. Rowling, because like you, she did not sign her digital rights away to Harry Potter, and she has published those herself under Pottermore, and now, of course, she's richer than the Queen. So holding on to your rights, say, like you mentioned, audio. If people listening, if you've licensed print rights, ebook rights, but not audio rights, then self-publish in audio. Like that, you don't have to do all or nothing. You can slice and dice. Or if you've sold US, Canada, self-publish in the rest of the world. That's the exciting time we're in. So if you're listening and you have a contract, go and have a look at them and figure out what you can put out there yourself.
Right. No, never give up anything, at least not without a good reason. The situation in my case is that those books back starting in the 90s had audiobooks at the time on cassette tapes. But the publisher still maintains the audiobooks, even though obviously nobody's listening to those cassettes. But the books are still in print, the print books, so I can't get the audio rights back. Never give up rights. Now you mentioned, and I know people are going to ask, you mentioned print-on-demand hardcovers. Is that with Ingram Spark?
Yes, and they're brilliant. It really is wide publishing. So I do publish with KDP Print as well, which is Amazon's service. Used to be CreateSpace, now it's KDP Print. Right. So what I do is I do the normal paperback on KDP Print and large print. And then I also, on Ingram Spark, I do normal paperback, large print and hardback. And then those appear in the different catalogs that bookstores can order, that all the people can order that, basically.
And you also mentioned Kobo. How do you use them?
They are, I mean, the three biggest retailers for ebooks are Kindle, Kobo, and Apple Books.
Right.
So Kobo is one of the biggest. They are owned by a Japanese company, Rakuten, and they're Canadian. So I think this is very important for American authors to remember there is another world out there beyond America, and not everywhere is owned by Amazon. So if you're just on Amazon, if you're just on, say, Kindle Unlimited, you're missing out on a lot of places in the world that don't necessarily want to deal with Amazon. So, and Kobo is fantastic. It's got a lot of interesting opportunities. They've just done a deal with Walmart. So my books are now available in Walmart through Kobo, for example. They also own Overdrive, which is the library ebook service that Americans have. They sell books in 190 countries. So they're certainly a big player. And Apple Books has really sort of doubled down on what they're doing, and we're still waiting to hear, but something exciting is apparently coming with Apple Books and audio in 2019.
And you've used Draft to Digital, I know, in some capacity too. I like them very much. They were at our conference this year. Is there a separate niche for Draft to Digital?
And again, this might offend people, but basically Barnes & Noble Nook were, at some point, they were quite decent. And then what happened in 2015, I think, they pulled back all of their international digital sales. And here in Britain, they basically offloaded their customers to a supermarket. And to me, this was not a good move. If a company pulls back from all of their international expansion, something's going wrong. So when that happened, and they have Nook Press, so you can self-publish directly on Nook, but I decided to go with Draft to Digital to get me into Nook and also a whole load of other places in order to kind of bypass all of that. So you can still buy my books on Nook and on bnn.com, but they are distributed through other things. And I also use Publish Drive to get to Google Play, which is growing in around the world, again, outside of America, through the Android system. So I have a very long-term, global, expansive view of book sales. Mm-hmm. It's certainly not all ebook, all America, or all print book, all print bookstore. I try and be everywhere, basically, in every format.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to go into crystal ball mode now. Any predictions for the future, or what should writers be keeping their eyes on or planning for in the days to come?
Well, how far do you want to go with that, Bill? Like 1 year, 5 years, 20 years? Like, what are we talking about?
Let's start with 1 to 5.
Oh, okay. So 1 to 5.
And then I'll interview you again and we'll catch the rest of it.
Well, in terms of 1 to 5, I think probably one of the biggest changes is going to be the importance of paid advertising. So it used to be that you could put a book up on Amazon, whether you were a traditional publisher or an indie, and it would sell some copies. But we're really moving into a pay-to-play environment, which is what happened with Facebook and to some extent to Google, is the paying for traffic type idea. So I think Amazon in the next year, 2019, is going to move to a pay-to-play environment. And what you're going to see, let's say traditional publishers will spend money on big names, but they won't necessarily advertise small authors. Same with if you're independent, you're going to have to get some ads on things to get things moving, like we do on Facebook. We press boost or we do some ads. So that's going to, I think, be a big shift. I do actually think Barnes & Noble is in trouble.
So you're not the only one.
Yeah, I mean, these two things together could have a big impact, I think, more on traditional publishing than indie. This is why I'm doubling down on print. So in the last year, I've moved my revenue, used to be 10% print and 5% audio and the rest ebook. And now it's 10% audio, 21% print of my book sales revenue, which is like 6 figures. So I'm deliberately moving my revenue into these other markets because I think there's going to be a real shift in terms of print buying. I mean, already more print books are bought online than they are in physical stores, but we're going to see some really interesting changes.
Thank you, Joanna, for that terrific interview. One last reminder, Dazzling Description, Painting the Perfect Picture, the 10th Red Sneaker Writer's book by me, is now on sale. So go wherever it is that you look for books and buy books and check it out. See if it might be useful to your writing career. We're still taking registrations for WriterCon, our annual writers conference held over Labor Day weekend. Remember, if you don't want to come in person, you can stream the entire 3-day conference. The website for that is writercon.org. Until next time, keep writing. And remember, you cannot fail if you refuse to quit.